Um, Dude, thanks for making time. I finally two meetings canceled this morning. One canceled on me, I canceled on the other. We have a lot going on, so it just seemed kind of pointless to meet at this point. So anyways, I got a pretty free morning. So thanks for
Yeah,
making time, man.
I
Appreciate
got
it.
I got championship season, so I got the haircut coming up at 11:30, so I got to leave by 11. But got to look fresh. If you
I
feel
got one.
good, you
Yep,
look good, you will be good.
I got one this Friday for our meet next week. I'm with you there.
That's awesome.
I know a coach. I know a coach who buys a new pair of shoes for every final session.
Every final session.
Every final session. Yeah.
My God, well, that coach is doing pretty well because, or doesn't have kids, because I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah,
I could get, don't even send me
that's
to
like his
J.C.
thing.
Penney and say, hey, can you get the cheap pair? Like, yeah, there's gonna have to be like a buy one get two free deal going on here.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, man. So, well, just anything new with you? I mean, I obviously have something I want to talk about because I have so much going on. We've been texting. But what's new with you? Anything?
Um, well, I'll share. I've got some exciting news that I'll share with you off camera that hasn't been announced yet, but it's a first for me, and it's going to be really exciting. So
Cool.
I'll tell you more about that
All right.
after we're done. But yeah, because I can't announce anything before it's announced, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but no, life is good. Like it's been kind of wild here right now. We had the big snowstorms that kind of drifted across the country, and we got them hit pretty hard right before our state championship. And so VHSL, which is Virginia High School League, we were supposed to host one of the championship meets, and then the others were going to be spread out between Christiansburg and Stafford. And when they went to reschedule those championships, they couldn't host the meets, and so Swim RVA is now hosting 4 out of the 5 days of championships instead of one. But
Oh,
it's in between the other championships meets that we're hosting for Virginia swimming. So we
yeah.
have 11 straight days of prelims and finals meets happening at our pool starting tomorrow.
Oh, geez, dude.
It's
I just
wild.
got, yeah, I just got done. I was the meet director for like the last five meets we hosted. Not five. That's excessive. Two championship prelim final, and then a 3 day like little 3 day time final one. Okay.
Yeah.
It's five sessions, I guess. Five, I don't know, anyways. But that was 3 weekends in a row, and I'm like, God, I'm so tired of running. Like running, it's different. Attending and running is different, right? When you're in charge.
Yeah.
But dude,
Yeah,
that's wild. So
100%.
how do you guys so who does that for you? You guys got someone who's like an all-time meet director, or you guys
Yeah,
bounce
pretty
between meet
much.
directors on your staff? You got one
Well,
person that does it?
when we first started, Swim RVA had, they had clients who would come in and host meets, but we didn't have a swim
Mhm.
team, right? So the swim team obviously wasn't hosting meets. It was other
Yeah.
teams that would come in. And as the years have gone by, we have continued to add more and more of our own meets. So now we basically have a full-time events director because
Hmm.
we have so many events and meets and stuff that are going on. It's kind of wild. So
Yeah.
that's really helpful. So whenever a meet, some RVA is hosting a meet like the Shamrock Showdown, which has become wildly popular at the end of March, um, or the East Coast Winter Fest that's got 1,000 kids in December. Um, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
We're sending kids to it, and my role is more in the creation of the meet, the idea of the meet, or
Hmm.
a lot of the meets that we have started through, either me coming up with it or sitting down with our CEO and kind of brainstorming it a little bit and saying, well, this type of meat would really fit during there, and there's a market for it, and here's where I think the direction it could go. And then we kind of
Hmm.
hash out the order of events, and then each year goes along. Now that we have an actual event director, that person will come to me and come to our CEO, and we kind of work together and say, what adjustments do we think we should make from year to year and stuff. So super helpful to have
Yeah.
that.
And that person, is that their only job? Like,
In
but you
theory,
guys are a
yes.
bigger organization,
We
right?
are.
So
Yeah,
you're
we're a lot
doing,
more than just the swim team. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Swim
yeah,
team's a
us
part of
too.
what we do. It's one of the programs. Give me about 10 seconds. I'll have a light flickering that I'm going to fix, and it's going to drive me
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Just noticed that.
There you go. The joys of an old house.
Yeah.
The laundry goes and then the light flickers.
Yeah. I
That's how it
replaced
goes.
that turn signal bulb real quick, and then I turn it on and it works. But then the car is still reading it as a bad bulb, so it's still blinking, but then it starts blinking fast.
Yeah.
But I
That's
told my
because
wife,
it was a bulb, but it wasn't the bulb.
maybe, I don't know, dude. Cars are like it's like they're really easy to fix sometimes, and then they're just dumb. But anyways, I've had to like our car thing. The past like 2 years, I've just had to learn how to do stuff just because like I like it. Like it's nice to just actually do something like physical, you know? I feel like so much of what we do is like mental work and we're doing things, of course, but like you don't see the payoff till later.
Right.
But like when you fix a car, like
You
you
get that
fixed
immediate
it.
satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah, like I did the brakes and rotors on our car like a year and a half ago. That felt real good. I did not tie one of the tighten one of the tires down all the way. And my wife was driving and she's like, something feels wobbly. I was like, stop, just stop where you're at.
Immediately.
Immediately stop.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't tighten it. The lug nuts were on. It just wasn't
Yeah.
tightened as well as it should have been.
Yeah.
But other than
Didn't
that,
put enough hustle
crushed.
behind that muscle.
That's right. Yeah, that's cool, man. I think our organization, I think we'll move that direction, getting an events director just because of the meets we host, and then our dive. We have a dive team, and we're
Oh, cool.
hosting
Yeah.
like last year, or I guess this was 2 years ago, summer 23, we hosted junior nationals, US Open for diving. So like we host really big dive meets. We host like some AAU regional meets, some
Wow.
AAU
That's
championship
awesome.
meets. So anyways, I think eventually we'll get there. We're not there yet, but kind of I think we'll get there. But so as the season is coming to a close, we just finished most of our championship meets. We have like sectionals and a state level meet next weekend, which we're hosting the state meet. Um, and then we have a meet that we go to at the end of March, but really like 90% of our kids are done, other than our highest level kids. And around this time of year, we start looking at like, okay, like what was how did we do? Right? So like what are your metrics of success on your team?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so there's a lot of different metrics. There's obviously have qualitative and quantitative. So uh, the ways to measure success obviously change depending on what your goals are, what you were trying to
Hmm.
accomplish. I think it's really easy to get so caught up, and I think almost everybody in this sport at some point in time is guilty of getting caught up in, am I successful at this meet or in this particular portion of the year?
Yeah.
And progress doesn't necessarily follow, as much as we want to say, hey, we're gearing everything up towards this particular competition. Personal progress is a continuum, right? It doesn't stop. It's
Hmm.
not like, oh, well, the meet is coming up, so I guess that means I am what I am. There should always be a mindset of how can I improve and how can I get better. So I think it's really easy for us to get caught up in, did I swim this time at this meet? If that's no,
Hmm.
then that means I haven't gotten better and that's a failure. Or if the answer is
Yeah.
yes, I have gotten better and that's a success. And I don't think it's quite that black and white. I think I used to think that. But as I've gotten older in my coaching career and I realized that we're doing way more than helping kids get up and down a pole really fast. What we're trying to do is help them learn how to make changes, like real internal personal changes in their life that allow them to grow in a way that lead to more success in the pool, in the
Hmm.
classroom, in future endeavors and stuff like that. So um, it's a difficult time of the year to really measure that success. So I've found a lot of success over the years in letting them tell me how successful the
Hmm.
season was or not. And so you kind of, you got a lot of ways you can do it. You can do like a postseason interview with each of the athletes. I've done it, like a goal setting meeting, but at the end kind of thing. Like,
Hmm.
let's talk about how things went, and then let's set our new set of goals. I've done it as a group before, where the whole group to gets together and we all just do what I call a download. So the download being, let's discuss the things that went really, really well that we absolutely need to make sure we keep doing. And let's discuss the things that maybe didn't go so well. And let's kind of identify why we thought they didn't go so well. And that way it's not all falling on, did I swim fast at this one particular meet? And that's determining
Yeah,
whether I was successful or not. I think you can really get hung up. It's like being a prisoner of the moment. I'm not a fan of being prisoner of the moment because you can do things so well and so perfectly and have so much growth, and then you kind of a little bit sick, or you're fighting something off the day that you're supposed to be racing that event, or it's back to back events and you only got 15 minutes when you thought you were going to have an hour, and there's just too many
yeah.
variables that can kind of get in the way. So that's kind of how I prefer to go about it instead of making it entirely about the numbers. How do you guys do it?
Yeah, on the athlete side, we try to just say like we try to look at on an individual athlete. I think what you said, like if the athlete feels like it's a success, I have learned to not project my like.
Ah,
I do a pretty good job not project my
yeah.
expectations or what I thought would happen
Right.
onto the kids or my assumptions, because sometimes in my head I'll be like, "Man, this kid's gonna be so bummed out," like, and I'll be like, "What do you think?" And they're like, "Man, that was the most fun meet of my whole life." And I'm like, "Yes, that's
Great.
right.
You're
It
right. That was
was."
so fun. Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, "I really thought you were gonna get futures cut at this meet."
Yeah.
But, like, it's all good because if the kid feels like it's a win, then it's a win, and then there's the opposite. You have the kids that are like, they never find the win, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
coaching them through that. So on the athlete side, it's like, did they feel successful? Did they feel like they achieved part of their goals? And with every athlete, I want to be able to point to something that I feel like they got better at. And I feel like if we got better at something overall, like that's good because the best part about swimming, and this is probably true in other sports,
Yeah.
there's so many elements to get better at. There's so many things, and it might be a stroke, it might be a skill, it might be a mindset, there's so many things, which is beautiful. So just finding like, hey, we really got better at this thing. It might be their commitment to practice, their intensity at practice, and something that I can build on for the next year. I think those are the things I look for and really try to point them out to the kids because a lot of times they're not things that they see. It's
Yeah.
like,
I
dude,
love that.
last year your underwaters would never even be past the flags. Like now your feet past the flags every wall.
Yeah.
I promise you, like if you didn't get that cut you wanted or that time you wanted, oh, that's okay. Like this skill right here, this is gonna pay off in dividends later. Like this is really gonna matter. So, finding something like that that they got better at, and it can be mindset, it can be I mean, there's somebody
Yeah.
posted a listings of ways
Big
to measure
list.
success. It's like, did we swim well in finals? That's a huge skill, just like comparatively to your prelims, or did you learn how to swim better at prelims this season?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of things like that on the athlete side. On the team wide side, and like this was before I was the head coach. By the way, if you're listening, you don't know, I just got the head coach position on my team. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very excited.
That's amazing. Congrats.
Thanks, man. On the team wide side of it, we have certain metrics that we feel like line up with our team goals. So like one of them is 100% meet participation. So that doesn't mean every meet 100%. It just
Right.
means on the lowest level, it's that every athlete on our team competed that year, which sounds like it should be a no-brainer.
Oh no, that's
But
really hard to
man,
accomplish.
that
Really hard.
sometimes, yeah, we've never hit 100%
Even
across the
teams,
board.
even teams that have policies that say you have to, don't hit that metric.
Yeah, just one meet a season. Like
Yeah.
that's as crazy as it sounds. Another goal, so that's like for, and we believe that's important for team retention and engagement. Like we want them in the sport and to be competitive. Like to be a competitive swim team, we got to compete.
Right.
So that's one goal. One metric we track is percent B times in our competitive age groups. So like our main 10 and under group, our main 11, 12, 13, 14. It's a metric at high school also, but it's like it's almost like we're like always 100% at the high school level for the most
Yeah.
part because
Yeah.
it's just a little easier. You know, they have 4 years in that age group, like, and if a kid doesn't have a B time and they get to high school, sometimes they're just not always still in the sport. Kind of,
Right.
it's kind of a,
There's not a
but
lot. There's not as many avenues for them to remain in the sport
yeah,
when they're
it's
at that
really
level.
hard if
Yeah.
you're not like at least at that level, right? Like, so, but for our 10 and unders and our 11, 12s and our 13, 14s, it's just a great, like, is everybody at least getting good enough to do this? And that I think a B time's a good, like, base level. The kid went to enough practices with enough effort and enough
Hmm.
competitions to achieve that. Like very few kids are gonna really go to practice and really try to get better and not get a B time.
Right.
Um, and then at the lower levels of our team, it's also a good gauge, I think, of communication and that meet performance. Like when coaches are communicating, like, hey, these meets are important. Hey, going to practice is important, kind of thing. So we just track percent B times across the team. And we've talked about it in a previous podcast about how like our team structure is wide ranging within a group. So if you get a group like that where it started with kids without B times and like AAA level kids in the same group,
Yeah.
like if everybody has B times, that means you really are moving the whole group up.
I
And
used
then
to
we
do
also
something similar to that. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
um, it I called it the Rapid Success Club because we're the Rapids,
Mm,
and it was every athlete. So I would start it over every year in September, and every athlete, once you swam a meet, what was the highest ranking time that you got? Was it a B time, A time, quad A time? And once you moved up, we would celebrate in the news write up. Hey, so and so moved up from the double A to the triple A. Congratulations.
oh,
And then
nice.
by the end of the year, you could see this full list of how many were quad A, how many were triple A, double A, works down. And from year to year, you could see, well, last year we had 7 quad A kids on the team. This year we had 14 quad A. We literally doubled, and so that
Hmm.
was a really cool visual representation because it filled out a whole piece of paper. But then the font had to keep getting smaller,
Yeah,
and the amount of time to do it grew. And when next thing you know, and you're trying to run 500 plus kids,
yeah.
and trying to keep track of did you move up from a B time to a double B time, it was consuming way too much of my time.
And then
But man, it was
Ajax,
great
yeah.
for like 3 or 4 years. It was great.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, so we think B time's just a good like if you're in one of our more competitive groups, like everybody should have B times and like that's also a good indicator like are we coaching the whole group? We also track A times. Again, it's not like there's this magical thing about A time, but we just feel like where a B time's a good like base level, like we're getting everybody to a good just solid
The way I
spot.
describe it, if you're a B swimmer, you're a good swimmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't become a B swimmer unless you can swim pretty well. You're not going to
Yeah.
win state championships or qualify for juniors, but B means you're good. A lot of people don't realize that because they think, but it's the beginner, it's the low. No, that means you're way better than the average person who can't do what you're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah, B time's like you're in the mix, like you're officially in it, and like I think that's just great. And then A times we just track because we think that's like we feel like it's like the baseline for further success. Not that just because you get an A time, like that means you get a triple A later,
Right.
but like I don't think you can get most kids can't get A times by accident.
Right.
Like you gotta be trying in some direction, whether that's intensity or commitment or you're a great racer also. I think B times you can get without like going super hardcore all in. Like as long as you listen to your coach and go to practice, like you should get a B time.
Yeah.
So we just track A times again to March. Like, all right, our kids moving into the upper end of the sport.
Hmm.
And then we also track percent of teams that competed at championship meets. Kind of the same thing, the 100% B time. It's like, hey, how many kids finished the season? So, I would say those are our 4 main ones. Um, yeah, and that's kind of what they're indicating. Like, um, we used to track, and I really liked this one. It's just been hard lately. Percent of kids in our developmental program that had a legal 100 IM.
Mm.
Uh, And that was really cool because that's a really good indicator of like, hey,
Yeah.
are we teaching skills? Like, and can they execute it in 100 without getting DQ'd? And the measuring stick was like at the final meet, there was 100 IM, and we tracked DQs, like DQs and the number of kids that completed the race.
Yeah.
So
I've always heard, I've wanted to do it, but I've just never pulled the trigger because I never had the time. But I've heard of teams creating like a award, like a certificate that says I am legal. And then whenever you swim your first 100 IM that's legal for the
yeah,
first time, you get this I am legal, certificate. And I thought that I love good play on words. So, and I love
yeah,
recognizing athletes for success. It's kind of a cool, fun thing.
yeah. And I think when we used to track that more, I think the coaches felt a little more pressure, like, oh, this is the goal, like we need to teach
Hmm.
them that. And it's still there, but whenever you put whatever you what's the saying? Like whatever you measure matters. Whatever you measure matters.
Hmm.
So like we've tried to be strategic about what we've measured for that stuff to matter, and not we're not like a cutthroat competitive type team. Like
Right.
you got to have 8 times. Everybody needs to have 8 times in this like kind of thing. But it's just like we feel like those are signals for B times mean, all right, everybody's starting to get going here. That's really
Right.
good. The A times, we're not trying to get 100%, but we just want to see what percent of the group has A times because it's like, all right, how many kids are really like starting to commit more? And then the 100% meet attendance is like engagement in the sport and the team, and I think it also plays on the communication to coaches. I mean, we have our normal communication channels that we do for the
Right.
whole team, but nothing's gonna beat a text from your coach that says, "Hey, he should really be in the meet this weekend. I saw he wasn't signed up. Like he should really be in the
That's what
meet
I
this
do.
weekend."
So
Yeah.
to get a list, the first thing I do is just text the swimmer and the parent together, obviously for safe sport reasons, but
Yep.
text them together and be like, "Hey, really want you to be in this meet. We don't make it. We're not making anybody do it,
No.
but deadline's coming up, and I'd really like you to be in this meet." And it's genuine. Like I'm not going to do that because I don't want them to be.
Hmm.
Just why would I bother to send a text? But it really does matter. When a parent gets like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot the deadline," or "Oh, really? You think so? Yeah, he's ready. He needs to do it."
Yes. Yes. And especially as the coaches, we see all the progress we make, and like kids don't notice how much better they've gotten. Like I had a kid who, man, beginning of the season, dude, like he couldn't make 1050s on 50. Like really.
Yeah.
And like he just went a 209, 200 free,
Wow.
which is great. Like
That's
it's good,
amazing.
right? It's
Yeah.
not an A time or anything like we talked about, but it's good. It's good for 13, 14 boy. Um, but his mom scheduled a ski trip over our LSC champs and he
Oh
had just
man.
qualified for it. And I was like, no, you don't know how good he's gonna do here. But I was able to get him into like our C champs meet the next weekend. And I just swam him exhibition because he didn't really belong in that meet. Like he was too
Right.
fast for the kids there. But that was me. Hey, this kid, we need to get him in the water to
And they
see
got to
how
see it
good.
firsthand.
Yeah, and it was huge. He was so pumped.
Yeah.
So, and I was the meet director, so I even put him in his own heats for a few things because like
Right.
it's not
Just to
really
not mess
fair
with the other
sometimes.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he crushed. He swam so good. So it just
That's where I
matters. That
think,
stuff matters.
the better your communication is, with the parents throughout the season on the progress of their children, the the more invested they're going to be in helping make sure that their child has every opportunity to realize the potential that we all see. Because a lot
And
of
this,
times, parents go into it nonchalantly, and that's fine. Like you said, you're not an uber competitive. We are a very successful team that is not uber competitive, if that makes sense.
mhm,
Like we swim very competitively and we're very good, but we're not
yeah,
going to make everybody be competitive. But we want the families and parents, and the kids to be able to see just how good they really, really are. And you can't do that if you're not at the competition in the first place. So trying to get
yes,
out in front of that and communicating that and letting the parents know, no, that the progress is happening. He's just not swimming at the meets to see the time drops, but you just wait till he does it, or wait till they put on that first tech suit, or kid shaves down for the first time, or something like that. A
first
lot of parents
taper,
just,
first real taper.
I think and this is a little bit off topic, but I think us as coaches who do this year in and year out and year in and year out, right? We find ourselves having to do and say the same things over and over and over and explain the same situations over and over. In this case, for example, explain what the championship meet is and why it's important and why you should
Hmm.
block it off and what are these qualifying times you're talking about. And we do that every single year. And I think because we do it so often, that sometimes coaches just kind of take it for granted and expect people to know these things, not realizing that every year that goes by, you get a whole new batch of parents, new parents who don't know what you're talking about. And we just
Hmm.
assume that, of course, the kid knows what the wait, you don't know what the championship meet is? You don't know what age group champs is? I don't really know what you're talking about. You've been on this team for 4 months and you don't know what age group champs is? And if they don't know, the parents definitely don't know. So of course they're booking the ski vacation,
Yeah.
in February when they should be racing at a meet. And you're like, how could you not be racing at this meet?
Hmm.
Backtrack 6 months and realize I actually failed that family by not, communicating that and taking for granted, and assuming that they knew that.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, like you said, I think I was going to say the exact same thing. Coaches that are been in it for a while, we have to always be careful of not treating things like just normal.
Hmm.
Like, yes, this is my 25th LSC champs I've been to. It only takes a B time to get to it. Like, it's like very easy for me to not make it a big deal. But for that, you just always have to remember for that kid that just got the cut or the kid that's on the hunt. Like this meet is as important to them as like futures is for another kid, their first
Yeah.
time. Like it's the same spectrum, it's just a little relative to this place where they're at. But and I think this is why there's a lot of sometimes there's been coaches on our staff who I'm like, I didn't like and like we had to let them go or they didn't make it or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's always people that loved them. Like every bad coach has people
Yeah.
who
They got
love
that
them.
person. Yeah.
They
That
they're
family
like,
that
man,
just
I
they're
just
they're
love.
God's gift to the world. Yeah.
I know, and I just
Like, really? That coach?
I'm like, wow. But I think about like when I think about some of the interactions, and I watched that coach, like he would walk that kid up to his parent and be like, "He's doing so good. I can't wait to see him at the meet in a month. Make sure you make it happen." And like this coach, he's not strategically thinking about the direction of the whole team and what this could mean on a
Right.
global
But in that
scale.
moment,
In that moment,
they
it was a
were
big
awesome.
deal.
Yeah.
It was a big
Absolutely.
deal, and it was awesome. And
Well,
I think young coaches especially do such a great job of that,
I
just
think
being
it's
energetic.
instinctual. Yeah, because they remember it wasn't that long ago, and they remember what it felt like when their coach was doing that to them. But
Yes.
the way I see it is, especially if you've been doing it for a real long time, always err on the side of being super excited. One, because it makes the sport a lot more fun for us. If
Yeah.
the number of coaches, and I've always been that guy. In case you can't tell, I've got energy, right? I've always been that was amazing kind of guy, and I've been doing this 27 years. And I've got coaches who are younger than me who have been doing it for quite a while, and they're like just curmudgeons about it. Like,
Mhm.
why aren't you excited? Well, I mean, so what? You got a senior champs cut, big deal. Yeah, but that
Yeah.
was a really big deal. You know how long he's been fighting to try and get that senior champs cut? Like that was a really big deal. Or the
Yeah.
kid that gets, like the B time for the first time. Or I love it when the kid will come up to me and tell me about the accomplishment they had that I didn't even have on my radar because I didn't have, all of their times memorized in terms of how close they were to like a B time or whatever. And they come up and they just couldn't be more on top of the world. And if we give them a ho hum response, God, how much are you killing that kid's
Yeah.
motivation after that? The fact that they shared it to you means it's really important to them, and it needs to be that important to us. Worst case scenario is you walk up and you're like, "That was amazing," and they're like, "Well, I mean, it wasn't a such and such cut," and they're ho hum
Yeah.
about it. Well, at least you might lift them up in that moment, and that's
Mhm.
okay. Worst case scenario is they're ho hum, but you definitely don't want to be the ho hum person when the kid's excited because you can crush them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, that's good. But
Yeah.
so is there anything you guys track team wide? Like what are some of your I don't know, what are some things you look at every year?
Yeah. So as with us being a newer program, newer, or we're 6.5 years in now, but in terms of having like historical data,
Yeah.
We're at the mercy of what we were thinking about to have in year one, and otherwise a lot of our data that we have is more recent, and we just need the next few years to be able to have comparable
Mm,
data. So like for example, meet participation is, like you said earlier, that's a really big one, right? Well, we were forward thinking enough to keep track of like how many novice kids participated in this meet or how many advanced novice kids, and but then that was only as good as the number, right? So if you get to the next year and your advanced novice group is twice as big as the year before, but you only grew by 50%, did you really grow? Was it really an improvement? So this year we started
yeah.
tracking percentage. So what percentage of the novice group is attending this meet?
Hmm.
And we at the very beginning we had our first meet and we were like, great, we here's the percentages that attended it. Let's use these percentages and see if we can set goals throughout the year. And what we found very quickly is that every meet was very different, and the percentages really need to be apples to apples from meet to meet. So we're really just keeping track of those percentages
Yeah.
all year long. And when we get to next year and we go to that same meet again, we say, well, last year, age group had 37% attend this one, but this year age group had 54%. Wow. Or the coaches
Yeah.
can use that and be like, well, last year we were 54 and right now we're 37. We got 2 more days for signups. Let's get this. And they shake the trees, and next thing you know, they got another 15 kids signed up for the
Yeah.
meet.
But
So
also that just being a metric also just reminds everybody this matters.
it's an important
Like,
thing. That's
yeah.
the term you said earlier, right? What you measure matters, right?
Hmm.
So that's one thing we do. It's I really like to compare, things from season to season that are going to allow us to continue to take steps forward, and they're comparable. So like virtual club championships, for example,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah.
I like it because the work is done for you. I don't have to go in and reconfigure it.
Yeah.
But if you compare your rankings, it's like comparing one type of an apple to a different type of an apple, because you're still at the mercy of, did other teams succeed or grow or not. So like the
Hmm.
point system though, like I'll have my coaching staff will measure the points,
Mm,
and we'll keep track of that from
that's
year to
right.
year. And what
Wow.
I
Why have
do
I not
is
done that? I
I,
just always look at our rank. I'm just
no, the
like,
rank. Yeah. So what
up
if another
20.
team? What if two teams merge together and then boom, now they jump to you? Like, did you get any worse? No. But your points went up by 6,000 points. Like that's the
Yeah.
only thing that you're measuring against yourself. So we do look at the points, and I'll take it a step further. And I've been doing this since I started because I wish I had done it on other teams, but I keep track of the points after every single meet. So I have the points and the rankings after every single meet. So like I can look and say, okay, well after this December meet last year, we were at 187,000 points. This year we're at 194,000 points at the same point in the season.
Hmm.
So we're tracking and trending in the right direction. Or maybe it might be less.
So, so if you are less, what would you, what's the conversation? Or
Try
like,
and
I know,
determine the reasons why, right? So
yeah,
less
maybe
like
like we're not putting 11, 12-year-olds in the 200 back or something like that.
it could
Like,
be, yeah, it could be,
yeah.
you're not filling out the events well enough. It could be
Hmm.
me participation is down. Depending on the size of your team, obviously a smaller team, your points can be very much dictated by an athlete or two. You get
Yeah.
an athlete who, we've got a couple athletes who, were injured this season and we don't have any, virtual club points from them, but man, they're elite level athletes.
Yeah.
So how different would it be if they were in there? Well, we're a pretty large program, so it might move the needle a little bit. But if we were 125 kids instead of 575 or whatever, one or two athletes could move you up 80 spots in the national ranking.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
you try and determine why. That's the other reason why I only like comparable data, because you can use numbers to really tell whatever story you want,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
also get lost and go in the wrong direction real quick.
Hmm.
So like for just a quick example, if your group is um if your participation in the meet is down a little bit, and you only measure the total number of athletes participating in the meet, but the next year that group has 15 less kids than it did before, and it's down again, you could have, but your percentage of attendance could have actually gone up, but maybe
Yeah.
the total number of kids went down. But if you're only looking at one number, you're going to think, wow, this is a failure. So you got to really understand and dive into why
Hmm.
is this the way it is. When we
Yeah.
keep track of, because we're a month to month program, we keep track of the number of athletes in the group at the start of the month, the number of athletes by the end of the month, and how many athletes suspended their membership that month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then why. We have a whole list of why. So then we can take the data of why and then determine, okay, there's a whole lot of this. That's a little bit concerning. Let's come up with a game plan to see if we can combat that. So, just as simple as how many kids are on the team and who's leaving and why are they leaving, like that's really important data to have. And even though that sounds really boring, and I know this conversation really started with, hey, it's championship season, we need to be, what metrics do you use to determine if your team was successful this championship season? Well, how many kids are on your team and are they staying with your team is a pretty big
Yeah.
indicator of whether you're successful or not.
Yeah.
So
No, I think
it's
this
boring stuff, but
conversation,
do it.
well, I mean, obviously the stuff we're talking about is someone who cares about the overall health. We're probably talking more to head coaches or anybody that has like a leadership
Yep.
stake in their team, right? I mean, so if you are not involved in the overall direction of your team. Maybe that was kind of boring. Also interesting because
Fair
there's some
enough.
swim nerds out there, and when I wasn't in leadership on my team, I was one of them, and I was still looking up BCC. Like even when I was just an assistant coach, I'm like, where are
Yeah.
we at? Like, not that I even had any impact on like anything happening above me or anything. So I was that kind of. I mean, I've always been like, look up all the numbers and look up other people's time. When I was a swimmer, it took form of like knowing everybody else's times and stuff. And then as a coach, it's like knowing that sort of stuff. Um,
My dog's going crazy. I apologize.
you're good. I can't even hear him.
Oh, good.
Uh,
Good.
man, something you said, um, made me think of a question. Uh,
Was it about
oh,
metrics that we use?
what's your like churn rate? Like, what's your percentage of kids dropping every month? We're monthly
Percentage,
also.
I don't know off the top of my head. It's crazy. It's actually kind of mind-boggling what
Hmm.
the numbers are like. So basically, I keep track of two different. Well, I keep track of it every month, right? Like I
Hmm.
said, but I also keep, essentially like a running average, and that way I can look and see, or what's our average through February of the last 3 years. Oh, we're trending higher, we're trending in the wrong
Hmm.
direction, and I keep track of that in real time because there's things you can do in real time to affect, good positive change. So, for example, I have two numbers at the end of the year. One is our September through April number, and the other one is
Hmm.
our 12 month because the numbers change pretty drastically when summer league season rolls around.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I don't want to look at. I need to know what that when our team is at essentially quote unquote full strength for those months.
Hmm.
What does that look like, and
Yeah,
then what
yeah.
does the total look like? But without having the numbers in front of me, we on average will have 30 something kids step away from our program
Yeah.
every month.
Hmm.
It's crazy. And you would think, how on earth could you possibly exist as an organization? And what's going wrong that you had 34 kids leave your team last month?
Hmm.
And that's not about what's going wrong. There could be, like, if we see trends, then we have to address
Yeah.
those trends. But generally, it's not has nothing to do with anything going wrong. It's the people that are using our program the way it's intended to be used. That we're not losing the people that are, the swimmers you're talking about earlier that are reaching the B times and the A times, and they're going to the meets and they're committed. Like those people aren't coming and going. It's the
Hmm.
people that are like, hey, soccer season's rolling in, and we our family can't afford to do two, and he really wants to do soccer, and then they come back.
Hmm.
So the fascinating thing about it is, yeah, hey, we might lose 35 kids on average for the first 8 months of the season, but yet our total number is growing. That means we are gaining that many kids all season long every month, and that's mind-boggling because a lot of programs they tend to, where they are at the beginning of the year is like that's their big
Yeah.
number,
Hmm.
and they just fall off the whole rest of the year, and they
Yeah.
just don't have any income of kids throughout the year. We got kids joining the team literally all year long. It's
Yeah. So do
fascinating.
we. So do we. Yeah. Which is its own challenge, which I would love to talk to you about.
That's a whole I would love to
Yeah,
talk
I know.
about that. That it wouldn't
Yeah.
fit in this conversation, but
It
the
would not.
how do you balance, keeping a group on a trajectory, and then you constantly have new kids coming in who need to be introduced. Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing.
Yep.
But I did
Um,
have one thing that was you kind of I had the one thing that I was going to maybe talk about today, and then you said something, and I kind of like, oh, that's a pretty good segue. So I'm going to segue using what
go.
you had said earlier, because you had said you want to be able to point out something that they did really well or that they
Hmm.
improved upon, which I love that. Absolutely love that. But I think we so instinctually think that that needs to happen after the season's over, and it's like a, hey, let's talk about what went well this season. You got a lot better at your underwater kicks, like you're using the example of the kid that got his feet past the flags and stuff like that. Have Should we as coaches be doing that before the meets? Should we be having those discussions? Like, some coaches probably do it, casually on the fly, but
Hmm.
should we very intentionally be having the kids tell us, be like, hey, I'm going to take 3 or 4 minutes with every kid over the next 2 days and pull them out. Like, all right, tell me what you've gotten so much better about, and let them like put that in the front of their mind, and they, when they say it to you, not you say it to them, when they tell you, my underwaters have gotten a lot better. Great, dude, you're absolutely right, totally agree. I can't wait to see what you do with your underwaters at the championship meet. And now they can't wait to show off how good their underwaters are,
Yeah.
versus having them improve but then getting to the race and be like, oh, I don't know, are my underwaters really better? And then just do their old bad habits. And you're like, how come you didn't do your underwaters? Well, I don't really know. I wasn't sure. But if you have that conversation ahead of time, it bumps them up. So that's my first question. And then um, my follow up to that, which I was going to talk about today, is um, how just some recommendations for how athletes should bring things like to the front of their mind before they go race at championship meets. And I'll give you an example. When I was young in school, I was a very good student, and I wasn't the smartest kid, but I was a very good student, and I knew how to learn information. I learned how to get A's, right?
Yeah.
So and my answer to that was, I saw all these kids that were scrambling to teach themselves material and study like until 6 in the morning, the night before the test. And they're basic, and then they go to class and they're sleeping, or they're not paying attention, or they're not taking notes or whatever. And it's like, well, why are you in class if you're just going to have to go stress and teach yourself? You have a teacher sitting in front of you. Why don't you learn the material now, participate, ask questions? You don't have to be a goody two shoes, but learn the material, take notes, actually put it in your brain, and then you get to the test. And so I would get there and I would already know the material. And so I would just pull my notes out, I'd read them over, and I would take it from back here and I would put it right here, and I'd go get an A on my test. Right?
Yeah.
Swimming is very similar to that. Think about the number of kids who don't do things well throughout the season, and then they get to this point in the season right now, it's late February, March, and all of a sudden they want to start doing those things that they need to be doing at the meet, and they
Yeah.
start panicking and freaking out, and the anxiety is like crazy leading into the
Hmm.
meet, and they're no different than the student who never really paid attention, didn't really learn the material, and they're panicking because they got to study for this test the next day. A lot of kids are probably going through that right now. So
Yeah.
my question to them at the end of the season is, were you that kid, or are you the kid who did actually learn the material, meaning you were committed to your underwaters all season, you weren't breathing out of your walls, you were committed to your stroke rate, and when you got to the championship meet, you were relaxed because you already knew how much better you were, and you weren't hoping that you were going to get it right. So that's just a little
Yeah.
different way of looking at it, and we can, as coaches, can highlight that by getting them to tell us, what did you learn, what are you a lot better at, and building that confidence.
Yeah. I think first off, I know exactly what you're talking about because it's like 2 weeks out from a championship meet. Dude, my attendance is amazing. And everybody doing the whole workout.
Yeah,
It's like, and I already know, I'm like, oh, you're nervous.
yeah.
You know you're not ready. And
That's the that's the study session 2 nights
yeah,
before
yeah,
the AP exam.
exactly.
I got an AP study session. Why do you need that? Haven't you been
Yeah.
learning it all year long?
Yeah. So I think what experienced coaches can do, and this is really what experience teaches you, when you're trying to have kids keep that stuff front of mind, you have to give them something to hold on to. Like they need a nugget. So like I actually did a private lesson yesterday with a girl doing breaststroke, and we took like, and it's like little technique fixes, timing. We took her stroke count from like 13 strokes per 25 to 9, right? Just
Wow.
in that
Yeah.
session. Yeah, yeah, you already see it. And I told her, I was like, hey, look, like we're not gonna be doing these private lessons all the time, but you have to make sure that whenever you're swimming breaststroke at practice, unless you're like super dying that day, you should be less than 10 strokes every single 25.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
that's going to be your marker. Was that good or bad? It's not good or bad. It's less than 10 strokes, right? So like an experienced coach who knows how to give a kid a something specific to focus on like that. I think that's really good. Like if you can find stuff. I love stroke counts, sometimes times, and then also intervals. I I think my 2 biggest ones I use, at least when it just comes to training, it's like stroke counts. Like I've been the last 2 years, I've been using stroke counts so much more almost every
Hmm.
day. It's just huge, man. And it's just like everybody in this group should be 15 strokes or less. It's just like I say that out the gate. It's
Yeah.
like if you have 18 strokes, I'm sorry, it's not good enough. I'm gonna show you how to. I tell them
I
it's not
I
good
I
enough.
I agree to a degree because I coached a girl in my short college coaching career, but I coached a girl who got fifth at NCAA's in the 1650, and she was cranking 17 strokes a lap. And when
Dang.
I got her down to 15, she couldn't go anywhere. It was like,
Yeah.
all right, all
Hey,
right, we are scratching that. Go back, just go back.
100% agree. When you got the kid or you have a kid who's like 5'1", it's like, okay, you need more,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously.
But I
But
understand the concept of what you're saying. I totally agree.
and then for your less, maybe a little less like not in tune with their times and pace and all that sort of thing, it's like if your interval, whatever your interval is, I want you beating it by 10 seconds. And it's just like that's the gauge. As long as everything's appropriate, of course.
Yeah.
So it's like we're doing 50s on 50, you should be getting at least 10 seconds rest. If you're not getting 10 seconds rest, go faster. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but just giving kids something, how to keep something front of mind that also doesn't require you to like watch them every 25 to make sure they're doing it. Because if you have to watch them every
No.
25, it's just not gonna work.
No, it's they've gotta have some ownership over it. You actually kind of reminded me of something I did. So when I was coaching, I was the assistant director at Yoda, YMCA, the Triangle area, for a couple years. Loved it. Coached with Chad Onken, my boy at Florida State. Um, but anyway, one of my responsibilities there was I was the tutor coach. They want to call it private lessons. It was basically private lessons, but I did all the tutoring. So we
Okay.
had 6 different sites at the time, and all the different sites, if they wanted to do private lessons, they would contact me, and I would film them, and they would get filming back, and it would be a little bit of extra income for me, but the families got extra attention. It was pretty cool,
Yeah.
and but in that case, I was doing lessons for kids that were on our team, but I didn't coach most of those kids. And I did not, it wasn't about making money. I wanted those kids to get better. And private lessons are a complete waste of money if your child is not willing to actually take what they've learned and inject it into a very consistent basis in their training. And it's really hard if you can be this guru with all of this fancy technology and show them all these perfect things, and you're probably right about all of it. But if that kid goes home and they don't do any of those things, or they don't remember to do it when they're under duress or they're tired,
Hmm.
it ain't gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I would only give them 3 things, no matter
Mm.
how many things we talked about. I gave them 3 things, and I would write them on a piece of paper, and I called them
Nice.
JCAPS thingies. right? And
Nice.
these are my thingies and all the things. It wasn't make sure you get your elbow up high. It was a very specific way that I talked about it with them that they got to be, it was relatable to them. If it was a 10-year-old and the Avengers were big, and I'd be like, all right, who's your favorite? Oh, you like Thor? Okay. So I need a Thor hammer kind of push through the back of the stroke. And so my thingy wouldn't be push through the back of the stroke or better. It would be Thor hammer, freestyle or something like that. Something that
Hmm.
was really easy to remember when they were in the thick of training. And I had kids literally, I still have kids from that team years later that see me at a meet and they're like, you remember the JCAPS thingies, or you remember I give you credit for my breaststroke getting better, even though I didn't really actually deserve it. But it stuck.
No, it's huge. It's
That's
huge.
huge. And so whether you're doing private lessons or you just working with a larger group, presenting things in a way where the kids are actually going to remember them all the time, because you can't watch every stroke, and nor should we.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something they can hold on to. All
Yeah.
right, man. That was a great talk. I don't know how long do we talk for?
I don't know. I can't look at my time whenever we're on, so I never know if I'm late for something. Hopefully it's not past 11 o'clock right now.
I don't know. It's on my phone. It doesn't tell me.
I
Oh
know
well.
whenever I'm on this I can't tell.
Well, it's
But I think we're doing I
9:17
think
my
we're doing
time.
good. Yeah, good. We're good. Awesome. Dude, I
Cool.
love chatting with you, man. This has been great.
Yeah, it was fun. Uh, yeah, man. Head coach, crazy. So much going on right now. God.
I got a lot going on too. I got my golden retriever and I've got a sheepadoodle.
Hey, let's
And we got
go.
another dog barking. That's what's going on right now.
Cool.
But
All right,
yeah, dude,
man.
I'm so hyped for you. I can't wait to hear more about, how you're gonna expand your staff and all the things. You got a lot of things coming up that you just don't know what's coming up. I've been doing it a long time, and I still literally experience new things every single week. So let's keep chatting. I'm here to talk it through, and I'll start bouncing things off of you for sure.
Sounds good, man. All right. You have a great day. Good luck with your 11 days of swim meets.
At least
So,
I'm not coaching all 11. I'm only coaching 7 of those. 4 of them are high school state championships. So that's more like celebration. I
yeah,
appreciate
definitely.
it. Yeah, buddy. All right.
Cool.
We'll
Take
talk to
care,
you
man.
later. Thanks. Cheers.